There's a specific kind of embarrassment that only brand designers understand. It's not imposter syndrome, it's not burnout, it's showing up to your own business every single day and genuinely knowing that what you're doing isn't working anymore. I'm Halle Montgomery, and I'm a brand strategist and the CEO of Halle M Creative. And for the last 7 years, I've been on a mission to help founders build brands that finally tell the truth about who they are and what they do. However, it's now time for me to work on myself. We're going internal, and the things that I preach to my clients, I am going to be doing for myself. Mine is a bit messy right now, and I'm rebranding in real time. And I hope that this video helps somebody who is going through the same thing as me. So, the reason that we're doing this now of all times is because, as the CEO and principal brand designer at Halle M Creative, it's time for me to focus on myself. I know oftentimes it can seem like as designers we put ourselves to the side, but I'm not rebranding just to rebrand. There's a clear path that I want to take that I didn't have before. So, for example, I joined the business program. Shout out to Uncloned Brand Vault. Um, I have loved my time in the program and I've learned so much. For example, I now have a 5 year vision. I now have goals for my business outside of just making money. Um, you know, most people when they go into business they don't really think about the other side of it, so the back end. What do I want from this business besides the money? What do I want my life to look like around this business? And in the program I've learned a lot of that. And so I'm not rebranding because I didn't love my old brand. I'm not rebranding because I hated my old brand. I'm not rebranding because I want to at all. I actually really liked what I used to have. However, me liking it and it doing its job is two different things. I want to be very clear about that fact. Um, and I'm saying this to other designers, future clients, anybody that wants to work with a designer. What you need and what you want from your brand is often two very different things. And so trust your brand designer to do their job. And I'm going to be honest, I'm still going through this process. I'm sitting here, I'm filming a YouTube video about rebranding. So I want to impart that I'm not writing this from the finished chapter. I'm writing it from the middle, basically, and working my way out to the beginning and the end. Um, and I will say that the things that are the real problems and the things that are not real are things like what's going on inside here. Um, we deal with life, we deal with extenuating, what's the word I'm looking for? Extreme circumstances, and it puts things on pause. So I didn't think about my own brand for a long time. I'm just putting out work. And so that's why this has to happen now. The real problem though is when you're working with clients, sometimes, like I said, you put yourself off. And now that I've put myself off for 2 years since joining, well, I've only been in the Uncloned Brand Vault for a few months, so since August, but I have been a part of the community for going on 2 years, and I have been back in business for going on 2 years now. And I want to impart that 2 years later and hundreds of dollars spent, it is still not right. And that's on me. I'm the one that's designing the stuff. I'm the one that has to do my job. And it's more of a do as I say, not as I do kind of situation. I'll give my all to other people, but what does that say about, my brand and how I show up for it? and I believe that I deserve a turn now. So, after focusing on others and other brands, I'm finally slowing down and taking the time to work on the Halle M creative brand. And like I said, the old brand wasn't wrong, but it represented a past version of myself that kind of had to die for me to get where I am now. And I don't think people talk about that part enough in branding, is that when you let go of your old branding and you put it to the side, you now have to grow into a different person to accommodate the new person, the new business, the new brand. And it got to a point really where it became like a cognitive dissonance between my visual identity, the brand language, and my even my website is like a hot mess. Sorry guys. But it no longer reflects who we are and what's meant for Italian creative, really. And I really want those things to reflect the level of work that not only I'm capable of doing, but what I want to do with my dream clients. I cannot attract the right people by sending the wrong message out into the world. That's not how it works at all. And a necessary, I mean, I guess it is technically a visibility problem as well, because you have to market yourself, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, and hence the YouTube video. But that's not the end all be all. You have to do what works for you. I'm just experimenting and figuring things out. So I do think transparency through this process is going to really help me. And I do think by showing up and showing people what I'm doing and the work that I'm doing, it will help with the identity gap that I'm having. And I absolutely know the difference between the visibility problem and the identity gap. And the difference I know for a fact because I diagnose clients with the same issues all the time. They're showing up, but they're not showing up the right way. And so that comes from having brand clarity. That comes from understanding what the brand needs. That comes from understanding, of course, business needs, because oftentimes business is financial, team, etc. Brand is image, story, think public relations. And so think about it like that. Um, and I kept feeling like I was showing up to discovery calls, and the message and the way that I looked was causing like friction for my clients. And so that's the chill. Okay. The biggest point of all of this, though, is to say that your brand isn't just what people see. It's what they believe about you before you ever say a word. And clearly, mine right now is telling the wrong story. And that's the biggest point here, is that my rebrand isn't necessarily about making myself look good. It's about making sure the foundations of my brand are clearing the gap between what I'm saying and what my brand was communicating for me. And so what has this rebrand actually involved? Um, I'll say that rebranding yourself is a lot different from rebranding a client. When you rebrand a stranger, you don't have any of the bias, you don't have any of the emotional stake. I mean, you could really fall in love with a client and you're be super passionate about the project, especially if it's a subject matter that you really enjoy. However, when you rebrand yourself, there's emotional attachment, there's a lot of psychological, not mental, that's kind of like the same word. Psychological, emotional, and sometimes even like a physical reaction to letting something go that you built from scratch on your own. Physical, and I see it all the time. It happens with clients. They get a little, little teeny defensive when you tell them that something they built on their own isn't really working for what they need. Again, I really want to emphasize that word need, because oftentimes the things that we really want from our brands don't always align with what we need for the brand. I always tell my clients to take themselves out of the process. Like, yes, you can include some of your favorite colors if that's what the messaging entails. Yes, you can include symbolism and things that matter to you if that's what the brand entails. Like, for example, my dog Pisces is a big part of my brand because not only is she a representative of like my love for what I do, but she is joy. She is fun. She brings a little edginess. And so there is actually an illustrative motif, which I'll include in the video somewhere. But I want to say that the stakes are higher when you are rebranding yourself. Um, so just like I would with a normal client, I started with the strategy. I started with the foundations. I started with my vision. Like I said, I now have a 5-year vision that is a ridiculous amount of pages long. I know what I want to do for the next 5 years. I know what I want to launch for the next 5 years. I know the type of people I want to serve. I know the type of people I don't want to serve. All of that matters when determining where your visual direction is going to go. The process, I'm going to be honest, has taken a very long time. Like I said, I just finished the primary logo suite this past weekend, but I have been working on the brand strategy for a couple weeks beforehand. And so I don't think this is a rebrand is a quick fix. It's literally not. You have to do a lot of work and auditing of your old brand so that you can kind of figure out where the gaps are, what's missing, and it helps you kind of identify blind spots when you are going through the rebrand process. Um, Halle M Creative isn't for the boring. It isn't for people who are scared to do the work. It isn't for people who are afraid to spend money on their brands. It is for risk takers. It is for the bright and bubbly. It's for the edgy, the forgotten. It's for people who are the disruptors of society. You know, disruptive dreamers live here is our new tagline, and I just think it fits so well. And so I really want to impart that I have thought of so much about my brand in terms of the foundation stuff that I no longer feel unclear about what I want. Do I still struggle mentally? Yes, because I'm human. I mean, everybody has bad days. Everything is not always sunshine and rainbows, and I think people should be honest about that and not pretend on the internet. But I do think that it is up to us to show up as ourselves and be authentic. And so, that being said, visual visual identity was literally the last thing on my mind. I struggled with that part so much that it didn't even matter to me. That was literally going to be the last thing on my mind. Like, I could design a logo in my sleep, great, but does it work? Is it timeless? Is it legible at 150 pixels, 100 pixels, even 50 pixels? Is my symbol going to be able to be seen extra teeny tiny? Is it going to be seen extra big? Is it going to lose that quality, the fun of it after a certain point? And so, like I said, the visual identity is the very last thing that I did, but it's well on its way. I know I keep saying this, but I actually did finalize the visual logos this past weekend. And so I have my responsive logo suite, and I've actually started designing some fun badges. So I'm really excited to have the brand done and launched. I'm thinking I'll be done with the visual identity part and can start actually working on the website by the end of April. So we're getting somewhere, guys. And the next thing I want to point out is that most designers skip this part for themselves. They'll do the work for their clients happily. But when it comes to ourselves, we get a little uncomfortable, and I'm letting it be uncomfortable. I am not rushing to a resolution because I need the money. I'm not rushing to finish this up because I feel like it's holding me back. I am really taking my time, not only getting to know my brand again, but getting to know what that means for my clients in the future. So, rushing literally is how you end up with a brand that is just and compared to a brand that's like, wow. And I really want the wow factor. I really want this to feel not only like me, but to feel like home for other, excuse me, for other brand designers and or other business owners. I want Allium Creative to feel like a sanctuary. So I just really wanted to impart that before I started doing anything else, I started with the foundation. I practiced what I preached. I started with the strategy this time before I jumped into visuals. That's what I tell my clients, and I'm not just saying that to you. I'm holding myself to the same standard because that's what we do here. Um, I am a strategy first company, and I truly believe that by laying the foundation, the rest of the house will stand the test of time. So what is this process teaching me? First of all, it's teaching me to be very patient. I am not a patient person. I want to see the results. I want to be making thousands of dollars overnight. I want that overnight success. And so by channeling this energy into myself, into my brand, I have really given myself the courage to slow down and pray on it, reflect, um, ask God and the universe how and what do I need to make this happen. Um, so yeah, rebranding has really taught me to be patient, and it slows your brain down, and it teaches you to show like it teaches you to think about what's working and what's not, and how I could evolve what I already had without scrapping everything that I've known for. I recently read Logos That Last by Alan Peters, and it was such an eye-opening read. It was very, very good. Um, and it really helped me think about logos in a different way that I had never been taught before. So I really appreciated that. I am learning a lot about how by taking a little longer, you're going to come out with something that is incredible versus just okay. Um, the rebranding process has also taught me that who I wanted to work with in the past isn't necessarily going to look the same in the future. Now, like I said, as part of my vision, I now have an ideal client list, and I think that my goal has changed from getting as many clients as possible to only working with the most qualified and aligned people for me. It forced me to ask myself what I truly about branding and to ask if my own brand proves that. And so between my clients being desirable and qualified and knowing that okay, I'm saying all of these things out loud, but my own brand isn't really showing up that way. It made me feel some kind of way. And so I cannot attract the people that I really want if my brand isn't giving what it's supposed to give. And that's not necessarily me downing myself. I think it's being honest about where I am right now. And despite how much I really love my old brand, it wasn't what I needed anymore. I know that word keeps coming up, need. My old brand wasn't what I needed anymore. No matter how cute it looked. Cute isn't always the answer. Sometimes Your brand is going to require things of you that you wouldn't normally do. And so I'll leave that there. And I will say, I definitely have been grieving my old brand. The loss is loss. And there is a sense of loss in knowing you outgrown your older brand. I mean, in just 2 short years, I have expanded my mental capacity around my business tenfold. It's exponentially increased my thought process, my desire, the willpower, it just everything about me in regards to my business has changed in the last 2 years. And so, uh, Design for Dreamers was our old tagline, and now Disruptive Dreamers Live Here is the new one. So that's kind of like that's a big shift. Even if words matter, disruptors are the people that are causing you to break your neck in traffic. I think of people like Cardi B. I think of people like fashion designer Robert One, and his beautiful interpretation of a Belinda gown for Ariana Grande, The Butterflies. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but I will insert it somewhere around here. And I think of people like that when I think of my brand. I want the showstoppers. I want the people that aren't afraid to be themselves because I'm not. At least I'm working on it. And so, just to be honest, I did in fact grieve who I was because um, that brand had to die for this new one to live. Um, and I think it's also teaching me to love creating again. I went through a period I like to call the dark ages. I lost my father in 2018, and for like three, I don't know really how long, I didn't do anything for. I worked in public schools for 2 years, and I didn't create anything. I didn't paint. I didn't draw. I didn't design. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And so this process is teaching me to forgive myself for all the things that I didn't make. I In the end, all of this is to say that this is the hardest brief that I've ever had to design for myself. I think it is incredibly rewarding, and I cannot wait until I'm done. I cannot wait until you know the rebrand is complete. It has been such an amazing process. The 5 year vision, what I've lovingly named the Forge Cast, is complete, and I look forward to sharing everything that's coming up with you in the next couple months. So follow along at Halle M Creative and subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so that you can know when I post another video. Thanks for stopping, and remember to go find wonder. Thank you.